You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Today, a car crash in Parsons ends in a fire and a fatality.
Finally a chance to dry out, but that does not mean there's not additional rainfall on the way. We'll look forward to what we've got over the weekend from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And we learned from one 10-year-old boy who's teaching lessons in kindness before he goes to school. All that and more coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thanks for joining us for the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. A bystander tries to save the victims of a fiery one-car crash in Parsons, Kansas. It happened on Kimball and Richard Tuesday night. The Parsons police chief says the driver hit a tree and his car caught fire. A neighbor used a fire extinguisher to put out the flames. The driver, Harold Wetzel, and his passenger, Betty Wetzel, were both taken to the hospital. Harold Wetzel died. Betty is at Freeman Hospital in critical condition. A Marionville, Missouri man is going to prison for the murder of a Springfield, Missouri woman. As part of a plea deal, a judge sentenced James Pride to 25 years for the May 2020 stabbing death of 53-year-old Patricia Uranga. Pride's mother told deputies her son claimed he killed Uranga because he thought she was evil. Investigators found Uranga's body in a car in the Marionville area. She'd been stabbed multiple times. COVID numbers are declining across the 4 states. According to data from the Missouri and Kansas Departments of Health, cases in our area have dropped in the past week compared to 2 weeks ago. In Kansas, Cherokee, Crawford, Bourbon, and Labette counties have reported lower COVID numbers, with Neosho County showing a slight increase in cases. In Missouri, Vernon, Barton, Jasper, and McDonald show lower case numbers, while Newton County has seen a slight increase.
Over the last several weeks, it seems to be one week is a little bit of a bump, the next week will go down, then the next week is a little bit of a bump. So it just seems to be the natural ebb and flow of this virus, that you'll have a little bit of a spike, but not too bad, and then it'll go down the following week.
Later in the show, we'll hear more from officials on what's likely causing the decline in parts of the 4 states. At the Freeman media briefing yesterday, officials discussed declining COVID cases as well, including a decline in the number of people hospitalized with COVID. Additionally, Freeman's Chief Clinical Officer Jeff Thompson discussed the new Merck pill that's designed to treat COVID. Merck requested emergency use authorization from the FDA on Monday. Thompson says there are still a number of unanswered questions on exactly how the pill will roll out.
Studied. The dosage has not been set, and that will be in the emergency use authorization, but it's a twice-a-day pill for 5 days is what it looks like it will probably be, but that exact dosage hasn't been laid out yet.
Thompson adds, in addition to getting the COVID vaccine, everyone needs to make sure they get their flu shot this year as well. City of Joplin and Missouri Southern hand out certificates for the first graduates of the new Fire Academy. They created the academy earlier this year and classes started in the summer. 12 students received their certificates on Wednesday, and one of them was honored with the Steve Fierro Endowed Memorial Scholarship Award, honoring a Carthage firefighter who died in the line of duty in 2004. Eastern Shawnee Tribe is helping the Seneca, Missouri Fire Department build a new station. The tribe Tuesday donated $373,000 for the project. Tribal officials say it's a win-win for both parties. A 2-year-old boy's birthday dreams came true when a convoy of Jeep cars paraded past his house in Williamton, North Carolina on September 19th. That's so cool. A video shared on social media showed Phoenix sitting in a toy car while the vehicles drove past and the drivers waved at the birthday boy. Phoenix's parents told Reuters their son loves Jeeps. Lots of people in their neighborhood drive the distinctive sports utility vehicles.
Cute kid.
That's where he needs to throw that up. There you go.
He's got his own ride.
He's like, someday I'll have a big one.
That's good. I wonder, well, I'm pretty sure with the amount of Jeeps that they had, if a Rubicon drove past, a Jeep Rubicon.
I'm sure.
That would mean that that young man had crossed the Rubicon.
Dream come true.
No, once you do that, there's no going back. Live look over 7th and Rangeline. Think about it. Now, every time you folks out there, every time you drive past a Rubicon, I want you to think about it. Once you go, My daughter and I do it if we ever see a Rubicon in a parking lot. If you ever see my daughter and I taking a picture of your vehicle, if you drive a Rubicon, I promise we're not doing anything creepy. It's a running joke within the family. We cross the Rubicon and then we send it to each other. So, yeah, Caitlin and I have crossed that Rubicon many a time. Here we are, live look over 7th and Range Line. Traffic really beginning to pick up. We've still got 20 minutes before we get to sunrise, and with the amount of cloud cover that still lingers, it's going to be a while before we get a little daylight, but at least our rain is gone in southeastern southwest Missouri. One thing that is not gone, that is the flash flood watch for our counties in green, anywhere from 2.5 to 4 inches of rain dating back to last night and carrying us through this morning. And with more on the way, not going to be surprised if those aren't expanded a little bit. Cooler temperatures out to the west and to the north that will eventually be a part of our weekend weather. Right now, we're sitting anywhere from 54 to 63. We've got a wide variety of temperatures. We'll settle in the low to mid 70s. It'll be a nice afternoon. Watch these wind arrows just spin everywhere. We've gone everything from northeast to west. And eventually, here's the crazy thing is, by the time we get to the afternoon, it's actually going to work in from the southeast of all places. But there's a whole lot of moisture that's coming up off of a subtropical system that made landfall in Mexico several days ago. And so once that wind kicks in from the southeast, we got enough moisture for late night, early morning thunderstorm activity. Same time frame as what we've had. So there we are for the afternoon. Left-hand side of your screen, here we go. Gathers up. Got some heavy rain, thunder, and lightning for early Friday morning. Carries through to the eastern portion of southwest Missouri. Not going to be done until about 9, 10 o'clock. And then after that, temperatures drop. Got a cold front. It's going to drop us down to about the mid to low 50s Friday evening, bottom out in the 40s, and only be in the 60s for daily highs on Friday and Saturday.
Well, up next, back under the microscope.
Some updates on COVID booster shots. I'm Laura Podesta with the latest, including whether it's a good idea to get the flu shot alongside the COVID jab.
And later, the White House addresses the supply chain bottleneck. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Jasper County Health Department reports 5 more COVID-19 deaths. Health officials say the patients were 3 women, one in her 60s, the other 2 in their 50s, and 2 men, both in their 50s. The latest deaths bring the county's total to 227. Well, new guidelines in Missouri say students, teachers, and staff exposed to someone with COVID will be allowed to stay in school and participate in sports. The state adopted the new Test to Stay guidelines on Tuesday. The new guidelines say anyone exposed to a person with COVID-19 can remain in school if they get frequent negative test results. The rules will require the person who was exposed to have no COVID-19 symptoms for 14 days, with at least 3 rapid antigen tests taken in the first 7 days after exposure. Local health agencies will determine if the Test to Stay policy will be used in schools in their region. Joplin schools have already said they would not adopt the new guidelines. Booster shots are back under the microscope today. The Food and Drug Administration could soon recommend extra doses of Moderna and Johnson & Johnson's vaccine. CBS's Laura Podesta has the latest.
Over the next 2 days, an FDA advisory panel will vote on whether to recommend booster shots for the Moderna and Johnson & Johnson vaccines.
So we anticipate hearing decisions from both the FDA and CDC very soon afterward.
The White House says 7 million people have already received a Pfizer booster, which was approved for certain Americans last month.
In less than 3 weeks, more than 1 in 3 eligible seniors have already gotten their 3rd shot.
Preliminary data released yesterday showed people who got the 1-dose J&J shot may be better off with a booster from one of the other vaccines.
1, 2, 3.
The Biden administration is also preparing for children ages 5 to 11 to receive the shots. That approval could come as soon as next month.
We'll bring that vaccine, as we've talked about, to pediatricians' offices, also directly to schools where appropriate and to community sites.
Health experts say local doctors will be the key to inoculating hard-hit communities.
By going through primary care, you'll be able to also reach populations that up to this point have been less vaccinated in terms of communities that are dying at a higher rates than others.
Some health centers are giving out COVID vaccines along with the flu shot.
That was quick.
If we have a serious influenza outbreak on top of COVID-19, we potentially are going to overwhelm the healthcare system.
The CDC says people can safely receive both shots at the same time. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
And doctors are fearing a twin-demic this year between the flu and COVID because so many avoided catching the flu due to mask and social distancing last season. More people may be susceptible to it this year. A Florida webcam is giving us a bird's eye view of a bald eagle nest in the making. These two majestic birds of a feather are parents, and they've been a bonded pair for more than 10 years. But a major storm destroyed their last nest. So the Ron McGill Conservation Endowment and Wildlife Rescue of Dade County teamed up to help them out. They built a solid platform for this year's nest, and eagles have taken to it. Their hope is that with a more solid foundation, the nest could withstand the next storm, successfully leading to hatchlings. To keep an eye on it, they installed a webcam, of course. They're sharing the live stream with the world. You can look for the link on Zoo Miami's website.
Dylan, can you pop that up full screen for me? I want to give a special shout out to the man there in the font in the top right-hand corner, Ron McGill, and everything that he does for Zoo Miami. One of the most intelligent people that you will ever speak with when it comes to animals. I don't care whether it's at Zoo Miami. I don't care whether it's in the world. That man is such a wealth of information, and the things that he does to protect all those animals is absolutely incredible. That does not surprise me that it would be his idea to help not only restore the nest, but also add a piece of education to it as well, and let us be able to watch how they do it. That is tremendous. Ron, thank you very, very much, and thank you for all that you do in bringing us educational materials like that. Live look over 7th and Rangeline. Koam clouds break a little bit. Give us a little sunshine here. Current conditions sit at 63 degrees, high humidity, but we've been able to mainly avoid a whole lot of fog because we are already clearing out from west to central, and the eastern portion, thank goodness, finally done raining because we've got flash flood watches lasting all the way into 7 o'clock this evening. Anywhere from 2.5 to 4 inches already falling in that area. Cold front out to the west. And also, too, want to point out what we call the old precipitable water. We'll remove the radar. Of course, the deeper orange you get, that's the more moisture you have. And this line extends, we'll work backwards here. It extends from really Canada, over the Great Lakes, down. That's heaviest in southeastern Kansas. But if we follow this thing back, this is actually from what was at one point in time a hurricane by the name of Pamela in the Pacific Basin, not the Atlantic Basin, the Pacific Basin. But all of Pamela's moisture is now making its way through Texas and up toward us, and that's why our conditions ripen for additional thunderstorm activity late tonight into early tomorrow morning. Yates Center and Iola, slipping down to 51 right now. 63 in Joplin, Miami, and Neosho. Let's roll 60 in Nevada and in Fort Scott. Wind, it's just going to swirl around all day. It'll just be 5 to 10 miles per hour, so it really won't make a difference. Afternoon planner will stabilize in the low to mid 70s. Get a little peak of sunshine here as we get into the afternoon hours. And then overnight, late night, early AM showers, the same time frame as we've had pretty much all week long. We gather it up out to the west, roll it through for early Friday morning as once again thunder, lightning, heavy rain coming down. And then look at this, where we have our flash flood watches south of I-44. Yep, that's why I'm not going to be surprised if those don't get extended right there as the heavy rain continues to come down till about 9, 10 o'clock Friday morning. After that, cold front sweeps in, actually going to put us with temperatures down into the 60s for both Friday and Saturday. High school football kickoff looking about 55 degrees there Friday evening. We'll be back with more KOM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
This October.
Having a supply chain issue, a backlog out in the Pacific. Laura Podesta shows us how the Biden administration trying to get your stuff to you, especially as the holidays approach.
This is the quarter where people either make it or break it for the vast majority of businesses.
In Arlington, Texas, David Hanson, the owner of Decorator's Warehouse, says items are flying off the shelves. And he knows with the supply chain problems plaguing the nation, it's unlikely he'll be able to restock quickly.
Today's announcement has the potential to be a game changer.
Now President Biden is announcing efforts to help ease a logjam of consumer products at the nation's biggest ports. After meeting with industry leaders yesterday, the president said the Port of Los Angeles is committing to 24/7 operations. That move comes after the Port of Long Beach expanded hours last month.
The night hours are critical for increasing the movement of goods because highways are less crowded at night. In fact, during off-peak hours in Los Angeles, cargo leaves the port at a 25% faster pace than during the day shift.
Now the issue is how to get the goods from the port to your doorstep. When asked if packages will be here in time for the holidays, the White House couldn't promise anything.
We are not the Postal Service or UPS or FedEx. We cannot guarantee. What we can do is use every lever at the federal government disposal to reduce delays.
Major shippers like FedEx, UPS, and retailers like Walmart say they too will expand their overnight operations to take advantage of the new hours at the California ports. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
The White House's deal to open up the ports of LA and Long Beach around the clock is aimed at freeing up the backlog of nearly 60 cargo ships carrying up to 500,000 containers. Those two ports alone account for about 40% of all shipping containers entering the U.S. We'll be back with this morning's four-state hero next.
It's time to honor today's four-state hero, Gary Anson. He served in the U.S. Navy from 1968 until 1972. A veteran of the Vietnam War, he received the Presidential Unit Commendation. We are proud to salute Gary Anson, our four-state hero. Before his school day even starts, one Massachusetts boy is teaching his own lessons of kindness. His way of telling strangers good morning is turning a lot of heads in a great way.
For the past several days, 10-year-old Michael Richardson of Swansea makes the most of his mornings before the bus comes.
I think this one would be good.
While everyone else is waking up or driving to work along Wilbur Avenue,
I've been going out at right after I ate breakfast.
Michael happily holds his homemade signs to send people passing by a positive message.
To make people's day good, because it's in the morning, and then if you feel good at the morning, you'll probably feel good for the rest of the day.
At first, his now regular routine was something his family didn't recognize.
Michael waits for the bus in the morning, and I'm already at school at that point, and so is my husband, so either my parents are here or our neighbor.
But the people passing by loved every minute of it and wanted the Richardsons to know they really appreciated it.
I would get text messages from his former principal, and they would say, like, what, your son is not shy about living on the main road, and this is what he was doing, and people just kept saying it.
First, it started out with him doing a few dance moves, and he noticed the joy it brought others. Then, using his mom's art supplies, he made these signs of sincerity to wish others well.
I feel happy because I see a ton of people just smile.
That was the case for a stranger passing by, who posted on social media about how his sign was exactly what she needed that day.
Oh my gosh, I'm like, Michael, I think this is about you. And he's like, that was me. Look, here's my sign.
Michael was over the moon that even though traffic comes and goes, his effort stuck around for at least one person.
I like to make people happy.
A reminder that if you slow down and take it all in, you might be surprised at the signs you may see.
Any little bit of kindness is helpful. And there's his bus. A new platform just launched as a space for programming with authentic disability representation and a focus on issues specific to the disability community. We spoke with its founder and an artist featured and discussed what they want to see from Hollywood when it comes to these stories being told. Now here's Fox's Ashley Dvorkin.
Dime Network, founded by disability attorney Jennifer Price, is a platform for content featuring or produced by people with disabilities.
One of the frustrations that came up more than once that I really identified with and could relate to some extent was the lack of authentic media representation. Either the lack of media representation or the lack of authentic media representation.
Amazing. The streaming service includes a variety of programming
to give people with disabilities an opportunity to really be visible on a television screen the same as anyone else.
The movie The Anxiety of Laughing is about a stand-up with cerebral palsy. Starring and written by Andrew Justvig, he became a writer after finding a lack of opportunities as an actor.
They don't want those main roles, those lead characters. I can play
And now he can't wait for people to see this lead.
in a traditional romantic comedy fashion, but it will also be unique to my disability.
So while the entertainment industry has made some moves forward in disability representation, they hope storytellers can take things even further.
To continue to have people with disabilities playing in speaking roles, but the disability is not a part of the storyline.
In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
Another half hour of news and weather is just ahead. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14.
New research is shining a spotlight on headlights. I'm Wendy Gillette. I'll have the results.
But first, the director of 12 Years a Slave has a new movie coming out. We'll take a look. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be right back.
Four States' most watched news starts now.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:30. Let's take a look at today's top stories. A bystander tries to save the victims of a fiery one-car crash in Parsons, Kansas. It happened on Kimball and Richard Tuesday night. The Parsons police chief says the driver hit a tree and his car caught fire. A neighbor used a fire extinguisher to put out the flames. The driver, Harold Wetzel, and his passenger, Betty Wetzel, were both taken to the hospital. Harold died and Betty is at Freeman Hospital in critical condition. Marionville, Missouri man is going to prison for the murder of a Springfield, Missouri woman. As part of a plea deal, a judge sentenced James Pride to 25 years for the May 2020 stabbing death of 53-year-old Patricia Uranga. Pride's mother told deputies her son claimed he killed Uranga because he thought she was evil. Investigators found Uranga's body in a car in the Marionville area. She'd been stabbed multiple times. Jasper County Health Department reports 5 more COVID-19 deaths. Health officials say the patients were 3 women, one in her 60s, the other 2 in their 50s, and 2 men, both in their 50s. The latest deaths bring the county's total to 227. Millions of retirees are set to get a boost in Social Security benefits. Social Security recipients are set to receive a 5.9% increase in benefits for 2022. It's the largest cost of living adjustment in 39 years. Follows a burst in inflation as the economy struggles to shake off the drag of the pandemic. With the increase, the estimated average Social Security payment for a retired worker will be $1,657 a month next year. Typical couples benefits would increase by $154 to $2,753 per month. New guidelines in Missouri say students, teachers, and staff exposed to someone with COVID will be allowed to stay in school and participate in sports. The state adopted the new test to stay guidelines on Tuesday. The new guidelines say anyone exposed to a person with COVID-19 can remain in school if they get frequent negative test results. The rules will require the person who was exposed to have no COVID-19 symptoms for 14 days, with at least 3 rapid antigen tests taken in the first 7 days after exposure. Local health agencies will determine if the test to stay policy will be used in schools in their region. Joplin schools have already said they would not adopt the new guidelines. COVID numbers are starting to decline again across the 4 states. KOAM's Chris Warner has more.
COVID numbers are beginning to trend down across the area with 1 or 2 exceptions. One of those exceptions is Newton County. Newton County Health Department Administrator Larry Bergner says he believes the ups and downs are just the way of the pandemic right now.
We've seen over the last several weeks, it seems to be one week is a little bit of a bump, the next week will go down, then the next week is a little bit of a bump. So it just seems to be the natural ebb and flow of this virus, that you'll have a little bit of a spike, but not too bad, and then it'll go down the following week.
Across state lines in Crawford County, Pittsburgh State University has reported 0 new cases for the 2nd week in a row, and numbers in the county are trending downward.
You know, we are definitely seeing a trend down, which we're very happy to see, and are hoping that that's, going to continue.
Van Kam says the thing with COVID is it's a novel virus, meaning it's new, and there's still a lot to figure out over the next several years.
So we're learning as we go, and I think the numbers they're trending down. I think they'll continue to trend down, but we have to always just be watchful.
With the Merck announcement of a possible pill to treat COVID symptoms and vaccinations opening up to those ages 5 to 11, Bergner has high hopes for the future.
That hopefully will get us to a point where we can finally say that we are pretty well through the pandemic, and then it becomes something similar to the flu where we know it's going to be here. Hopefully it won't be severe, and we can deal with it in an effective manner to save lives and get people over the illness as quickly as possible.
I'm Chris Warner for KOAM News.
Both Bergner and Van Kam want to stress the best way to stay protected is by getting vaccinated as soon as possible. At the Freeman media briefing yesterday, officials discussed declining COVID cases as well, including a decline in the number of people hospitalized with COVID. Additionally, Freeman's chief clinical officer, Jeff Thompson, discussed the new Merck pill that's designed to treat COVID. Merck requested emergency use authorization from the FDA on Monday. Thompson says there are still a number of unanswered questions on exactly how the pill will roll out.
The way it's been studied, the dosage has not been set, and that will be in the emergency use authorization, but it's a twice-a-day pill for 5 days is what it looks like it will probably be, but that exact dosage hasn't been laid out yet.
Thompson adds, in addition to getting the COVID vaccine, everyone needs to make sure they get their flu shot this year as well. Rapper Jay-Z's organization is fighting wrongful convictions in Kansas. Jay-Z's Team Rock, which is the criminal justice division of the rapper's entertainment organization, Rock Nation, has facilitated donations totaling more than $1 million for the local Innocence Project. Tricia Rojo Bushnell, executive director of the Midwest Innocence Project, calls it a huge investment. MSSU's Japan semester in Joplin continued on Wednesday with puppet performances and a workshop. The Buckaroo Bay Puppet Theater is only one of its kind in the U.S., presenting a traditional Japanese puppetry. Performers were trained in Japan by artists from a 170-year-old theater. Well, we've talked about bald eagles, and now we'll tell you why. Bald is beautiful. Today is the perfect day to recognize that because it's Bald and Free Day. It comes every year on October 14th. The day recognizes the beauty of the naked scalp, and for those who are bald, to take pride in it. Baldness can be partial or total, a result of genes or environment, or by choice to achieve a certain look or beat natural baldness to the punchline before it fully sets in. The day is also a day to stand in solidarity with those coping with baldness as a result of medical treatment, such as chemotherapy. One way to mark the day, shave your head if you're not already bald. You can post your bald selfies to the social media hashtag Be Bald and Be Free Day. That's what it is.
Don't even think about it, Mary. I got an appointment this afternoon. Don't give her any ideas. I'll come back tomorrow and I'll be done. Oh, hey. So we always do like a little cutesy story that Tanya and I can chat about. And yesterday we did the, as you referred to him, Larry Jones. We did Chipper dropping the foul ball. And I said that's arguably the second best switch hitter that ever played the game. I run into this gentleman yesterday, and here's where I missed my 4-state tie-in. I run into this gentleman at an event, lovely event by Frontenac High School, by the way. I don't know who he is. He goes, "Who's your argument for number 2?" I said, "Well, you could argue Pete Rose." And I'm a Reds fan, but I'll take Chipper for my money. And he says, "So I think I know who you'd put at number 1. Commerce, Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah, Mickey Mantle.
Mick. Right. So I apologize for bringing that up yesterday, not even making the 4-state tie-in. It goes without saying Mick is the greatest switch hitter that ever played. Live look over 7th and Rangeline. Look at that cloud cover giving us a blue hue. Hard to find any sunshine right now. It is pretty mild, 63 degrees. Just coming off a couple days where it was in the 70s during the morning. A little bit cooler than what we had. Thank goodness we're finally done with the rain on the eastern part of southwest Missouri. We are not done with our flash flood watches, as those last until 7 o'clock tonight and very well could be extended. Here's why. After an afternoon that we get up into the, say, mid-70s, we've got rain coming our way for tomorrow morning. Gathers out to the west, thunderstorm activity, heavy rains to go along with it, and look at that, right through the flash flood area. Should be able to avoid any damaging high winds, but the rain doesn't want to finish off till about 9-10 a.m. on Friday. Temperatures drop as it rolls through as well. Drop down into the 50s, as a matter of fact. That's 65. You see, that's going to be real early in the morning. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. We're going to talk about this morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page in our morning Instapoll energy sources. As this month, California is banning the sale of gas-powered lawnmowers and leaf blowers by the year 2024, and also restricting the sale of gas-powered generators by the time 2028 rolls around. Our question for you is, where do you get your energy from? Right now, 69% of you say traditional sources. Boom. Only 4% say green. We've seen that number slowly go down throughout the course of the morning, but almost a third of you say a combination of both. You can always take part by going to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Transition now to what's called Needle in a Time Stack. I have no idea what this story is about. Let's find out together. No, we don't have that. Good. You know what I'm going to do then? I'm going to do weather. How about that? They're like, Michael, no, you need to do something else. I'm like, guess what I can do? You guys want to throw 5 minutes up on the clock? Let's have some fun. Rain activity moving out to the east of southwest Missouri. So we're actually starting to clear off a little bit. The central portion, all our tower cams that we have, can't get any break in the cloud cover from those though. So we'll just stick to the maps here until I can find a pretty shot. All right, we got flash flood warnings here for southwest Missouri. Overnight, we saw 2.5 to 4 inches of rainfall in this particular area. Now, if we were to go back and say, you know, this whole mess started Sunday night and, you know, obviously lasts into tomorrow, as a matter of fact, there's our rain totals already for this week. You see that orange right there? That's 3.5 to 4 inches of rain. It's pretty amazing that southwest Missouri, the only place right now with those flash flood watches, because these could become even more widespread by the time we get to tomorrow. Cold front awaiting us. It's out to the west right now. What's going to happen is after we get up into the mid-70s here later on this afternoon's not going to be bad at all. For tonight into tomorrow, here we go. Roll the heavy rain, the thunderstorm activity, and thunder lightning should be able to avoid the high winds as this thing rolls through. Temperatures are going to drop all the way down into the 40s here for overnight lows. High school football kickoff, looking about 55 degrees, and then we rebound on Sunday. And then we got another little bit of a warning trend on our hands for Monday and Tuesday. Be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Headlights have been used on cars for more than 100 years, and a new study shows how important a quality pair can be. Wendy Gillette explains.
Crash tests can gauge how a vehicle performs in a collision. But a new study from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety is shedding light on a key component to avoiding an accident: headlights.
Why is this study important?
The study is important because driving at night is 3 times as risky as driving during the day.
Matthew Brembelow with the IIHS was part of a team that looked at 44,000 crashes and found vehicles with headlights that received a good rating had a 20% lower risk of being in a crash compared to cars with headlights that had a poor rating. There was also a 30% reduction in accidents where the driver was injured. This demonstration shows how much clearer the road comes into view when there's plenty of light. The IIHS says high-performing headlights can help a driver identify a potential hazard in just 2 seconds, while it could take up to 6 seconds with poor lights.
The difference between that could make the difference between being in a crash or not.
The track is ready. You can begin your run.
29% of cars the IIHS tested received a good rating, but the group is pushing automakers to do more and the government to update current standards.
The federal regulation for headlights is quite outdated, so we would like to see the federal government improve the regulation that exists right now.
Brembelow says the government needs to change how headlights are tested and consider new technology to better illuminate a driver's view of the road. Wendy Gillette, CBS News, New York.
We'll be right back with more after this, but first, let's take a look at the market prices before the opening bell.
Latest movie from the Oscar-winning filmmaker behind 12 Years a Slave and Three Kings involves two concepts equally difficult to explain and one that I absolutely adore. Well, the two concepts are time travel and love. David Daniel explains the film.
The past doesn't just belong to old photos and history books anymore. Now we can live it, touch it, change it.
Needle in a Time Stack stars Leslie Odom Jr., who fears that someone is trying to alter his life with Cynthia Erivo by changing the past.
You always say to me that even if you didn't know me, you would still love me. No one can make us not happen. No one.
Writer-director John Ridley adapted the film from a Robert Silverberg story.
It was a short story that I read in the mid to late 90s, and it just always stayed with me. A structure that was created to tell a story that was more about human relationships, about what if, about potentiality, and about assessing one's life.
What if you go back and change your past, but you end up with no future?
Ridley hopes the film's questions resonate with audiences.
Is this the right life? Is this the right relationship? Is this the right circumstance? And question it every step of the way.
What do we fight for, and what do we leave to fate?
Wherever you are, whenever you are, I will find you. We'll find our way back.
If there's anything the last year I hope has taught us is that if you're not happy with your relationship, certainly if you're not happy with your work, it's okay to change. It's okay to want different things. It's certainly okay to realize that time is precious and is fleeting, and find that right alchemy for every individual.
Love is drawn in the form of a circle, but forever, always, and always.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Needle in a Time Stack opening in theaters and on video on demand and digital platforms come Friday. Overcast start over 7th and Range Line. Still waiting on a little sunshine here, but at least it's not raining. 63 degrees. We'll get to our temperatures here in a second, but let's break down what we've got on the Skywatch storm tracker because flash flood watches do persist all the way until 7 o'clock this evening, those ranging all the way down into southwestern Arkansas. As far as what we've seen, our rain totals, you know what, I'm gonna back that up a little bit. Let's go 12 hours on that because there you go. That's what we're talking about, close to 3 inches of rain. And then if we rewind all the way to Sunday night when this whole thing started, 3.5, 4 inches indicated there in the orange. And that's why with additional rainfall coming tonight into Friday morning, probably going to see a little expansion, if not extension, of those time frames in that geographic scope. Skywatch storm tracker shows a cold front lingering out to our northwest. On top of that, we've got the good old-fashioned precipitable water. We'll take off the radar, give you an idea exactly where that moisture is coming up out of southeastern Texas. That's the result of what was a tropical system by the name of Pamela that was in the Pacific Basin, made landfall earlier this week. We've just been consumed with our own severe weather and haven't had a whole lot of time to talk about it. 51 in Iola, all the way up to 63s, whether it be Joplin, Carthage, or Miami. So a wide variety of temperatures for a Thursday morning. Eventually, we'll settle into the low to mid 70s, and then we'll get ready for thunderstorms for tonight. Here they come in from west to east. Heavy rain once again, thunder and lightning should be able to avoid the high winds. Temperatures fall all the way down to the 50s by tomorrow afternoon. A little cool start to the weekend, but then right back into the 70s for Sunday. We'll be back. Wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
At Cat's Fab.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. President Biden is promising to fix the supply chain backlog that has stranded scores of cargo ships loaded with goods destined for American consumers. After meeting with industry leaders yesterday, the president said the Port of Los Angeles, which handles about 10 million shipping containers a year, agreed to begin operating around the clock. An FDA panel of experts will consider Moderna's request for emergency authorization of its booster shot today. And tomorrow, they'll look at Johnson & Johnson's application. On Wednesday, FDA staff released data showing J&J's booster shot does bolster antibodies. More than half a century after his debut as Star Trek's Captain Kirk, 90-year-old William Shatner is now the oldest person to travel to space. He traveled as a guest of Amazon founder Jeff Bezos on a Blue Origin spacecraft. After returning to Earth, Shatner called the short voyage the most profound experience he could imagine. Let's check in with Michael with a final look at your forecast.
Let that clouds break a little bit. We'll get some sunshine this afternoon, work up into the low to mid 70s. But remember, thunderstorms coming our way again tonight into tomorrow morning.
All right, well,
we got Captain Kirk back on terra firma. That's the important part.
yes. A little bit shorter than Captain Kirk's. You know, he pretty much lived in space, so.
Middle name?
T?
Tiberius.
Yes, I was like, James T. Kirk.
Thank you so much for letting us put the good in your morning. More news and weather when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.
Hi, it's Ron, the Chief